Chief Justice Roberts has come out in favor of the Trump agenda. There was a lower court that ordered Trump to pay the USAID criminal, greatest American grift in history, and Chief Roberts reversed him, saying no, he doesn't have to pay him. Thanks to Justice Roberts for helping Trump out. We have the story for you in great detail. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. Here's one of the greats, John Fredericks, with that story.
Number one, last night, Supreme Court says no. Some libtard judge in Washington, D.C. cannot dictate where the federal government spends their money. Checks go out, procurements go out, willy-nilly. Remember, President Trump cutting off all more payments to USAID because of the fraud and waste that was found. Some judge says, no, you got to pay these people. You just got to pay it. It's Congress authorized the money. No, you don't. Supreme Court, John Roberts weighed in last night, stopping this, getting rid of it, saying, look, you guys don't have the standing for this, and this is going to be up to the administration whether they want to pay this money or not. Right now, it is not getting paid, money saved. Now, if you're a taxpayer, you're getting extorted, you're getting exploited, you're a working person, they confiscate your money, they take your taxes, and then everybody else gets rich on our back, and all this money goes out. That has been stopped last night.
That's Justice John Roberts, Chief Justice, backing up from a Supreme Court mandate that Trump has the presidential power to stop these payments at USAID. Here's the rest of the story at CNN. Chief Justice John Roberts pauses order for Trump administration to pay $2 billion in foreign aid by midnight. Chief Justice John Roberts on Wednesday paused a court-imposed midnight deadline that would have required the Trump administration to release $2 billion in frozen foreign aid. They're trying to waste your tax dollars, a goal that the government has claimed it is unable to meet. The emergency appeal marks the first time President Donald Trump's efforts to drastically remake the federal government, that's all opinion, thank you CNN, including with deep cuts across government agencies, have reached the nation's highest court. The case appears likely to put the justices on a collision course with Trump's sweeping efforts to consolidate power within the executive branch. And here is the longer form of interaction with Tom Burchett on U.S. foreign aid funding terrorists like Hamas against our own workers and soldiers and people.
Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Khamsi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
That's pretty much every terrorist. What terrorist group have we not funded? This is insane. Your tax dollars that they're extracting from you is paying for the most psychopathic enemies of Western civilization. He just named all of them. We're funding all of them through USAID. And that's what all these Democrats are defending. That's all the sob story of that judge that the Supreme Court reversed. We're going to bring out all of this to him and show this to Justice Roberts. Does Trump have a right to stop this?
Could you elaborate a little bit on the mechanisms in place that are to stop foreign aid from going to terrorist groups, and why are they not working if we have any in place? Sure. And I would note that these are terrorist weaponry. You see some AKs, SKSs, some snipers, some clips, some clip carriers, probably made in China, and I believe these are small landmines here.
Look at that USAID box right there.
The side right there.
Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip. They had to have been vetted by OFAC. They should have been vetted against the special designated terror list from the State Department and from other Treasury organizations. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures.
They didn't allow us to screen for terrorists because they hid behind the children. They said, we have emergency aid in the Biden administration. Biden did this, said, it's an emergency to get the food to the children. And so they said, we're not going to check the normal terrorist watch list to see where this money is going and how it's being spent. That's a dereliction of duty.
As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas. And this is ridiculous. Essentially, what the U.S. assistance to Gaza did was underwrite the ability for Hamas to survive until the ceasefire was just passed a few weeks ago. There was no strategic thought for it, and there was no screening.
Seems like
We helped Hamas survive until it's over. They just survived. They were able to hold out, and Biden dragged their feet, and this is why they were no friend to Israel.
the emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate, and even more than that, Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID.
We did a video on Samantha Powers, too.
Well, you can imagine when you suddenly in your inbox find a termination notice or a leave of absence notice that you didn't expect to get on a flawed predicate that you're doing radical leftist insubordination.
When she was talking about what great work USAID did a few years ago, she was in charge. She was fired on day one by Trump.
Was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself.
To not be able to defend it.
Correct.
How did terrorists exploit our foreign aid loopholes?
You have international NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C. against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID, and what
Hold
we
on a second. Did you say United Nations is doing this? The UN?
Sure, everybody who's getting money lobbies here.
That they're lobbying against us. I'm sorry, Mr. Roman.
There's actually someone who used to work for one of those lobbies, the largest NGO lobby, Interaction. One of our co-witnesses here worked for them from 2018 to 2023. USAID effectively self-funds its own external private lobby that then goes back to Congress and asks for more money for USAID.
Are you angry yet? This is insane. This is a scandal, the biggest scandal in U.S. history. The USAID hires lobbyists to go to our politicians, our congressmen. We're finding they're getting millions of dollars. This is why they go into office making $190,000 a year and come out with $10 million. That's Jasmine Crockett. That's Jamie Raskin has been found to be making money. These are almost all Democrats. Lobbies go and pay them and contribute to all their campaigns to protect the USAID money and to keep investigations from looking to see where the money's going, whether if it's being paid to terrorists or not. Once again, let this message get out to Chief Justice Roberts. Are you sure you want to say the president doesn't have a right to stop this? Are you sure?
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly killing our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that oversees work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it.
I don't need a flow chart to show that Democrats are killing Americans. Democrats, I just want to reach out to the evangelicals for Kamala Harris and David French, alleged Christian here in Franklin, Tennessee, and Republican David French, and the creator of VeggieTales, Phil Vischer, who are defending giving money to USAID, that they're backing the giving of money by lobbyists to terrorists covered up by Democrats. Never put an X next to a Democrat on a ballot. It is immoral.
Do you think USAID programs have been aligned with the national security interests of the U.S.?
No, they have not. They have actually helped China.
Mr. Roman?
Holy cow, wait, they helped China?
How do these programs compromise our national security, Mr. Premack?
They actually push China. They actually push much of the world towards China on the green energy agenda.
The green energy agenda. It's the environmentalists now. See how it's all coming together? They push people and businesses and are giving to help China and that corrupt global warming new Green Deal agenda by every Democrat. By the way, some Republicans believe this garbage also, and you guys need to repent. This is pagan, earth-worshiping, paganism, fake doomsday stuff. It is being used by Marxists to harm our businesses and expand this. This is a government-funded pagan religion, environmentalism.
They push people, ordinary people, billions of people towards China because of the resentment caused by our social re-engineering.
Are we being lobbied by these pro-communist China groups currently?
But a lot of these countries don't even have to lobby because they get the money anyway, like South Africa.
Yeah, they don't have to even try. They're just getting free dough. South Africa's too dumb to even be able to lobby right. But we'll just send them millions of dollars of your tax dollar. You're paying for this?
Yeah, and in fact, these lobbyists have come to the House and have tried to kill legislation like H.R. 160, which was meant to increase transparency in USAID's funding of overseas organizations.
Is that a current piece of legislation?
That's from the last session.
And give me that number again.
H.R. 160.
And what does it do?
It was meant to give U.S. lawmakers the ability to have higher transparency in terror financing investigations aimed at scrutinizing extremist groups.
Mr. Premier?
We had a regulation before we left in the last administration that anybody who touches money in countries where there's terrorists, those names have to go through databases, terrorist databases. That was overturned by Biden.
Overturned by Biden. Chair Lady, I am currently 5 seconds, but I wanted to mention something. There's a lot of rhetoric used on this committee, and I would urge my friends on both sides of the aisle, let's stick to the actual information. This rhetoric is, I've received death threats, and I know the chair lady has, and it needs to stop.
Stop the rhetoric, Democrats. Burchett is getting death threats. Again, Democrats are doing this. They're pagan. They're anti-American. This is a kind of evil. They're getting death threats. This goes all the way up to the top, to hit lists. Pray for these people. Pray for the protection of the good Americans that are trying to protect our soldiers, innocent civilians, our government, and our leaders. Pray for Mr. Burchett for his protection. Let me know if you'll pray in the comments below. I'm Doug in Exile.